You know, I had this moment the other day. I was staring at a piece of enterprise software. I won't name names, but we all use it. And I was just angry.
Oh, yeah.
I needed to find this one specific report, and I knew the data was in there. I knew exactly what I wanted.
Right.
But I had to spend, I don't know, 15 minutes just clicking through these nested menus, trying to guess the logic of whoever designed it 5 years ago.
Right.
It felt like I was fighting the tool.
It's the builder's intent versus
Well, with
the...
user's reality.
Exactly. That's the classic tension in software design, right?
Yeah.
We spend months locking down a UI, assuming we know the happy path a user will take.
But the moment it hits the real world, the user has a slightly different need, a different context, and suddenly that beautiful static interface is a straitjacket.
It is.
It's so rigid, we have to learn the software. The software doesn't learn us.
Yeah.
And for the last year or so, the promise has been AI will fix this. We get chatbots, but honestly, sometimes I don't want to chat. I don't want a paragraph of text explaining the data. I want the actual dashboard. I want the buttons.
You want the interface to just manifest based on your intent, not just text.
Right. And that is why I am genuinely excited about the stack of research we have today. We're looking at a toolkit called Tambo.
Tambo. Yeah.
It's been making some serious noise on GitHub. Something like 9,000 stars recently.
Yeah.
And the pitch is exactly what I've been waiting for. Agents that speak your UI.
It's a fascinating pivot. We're moving from generative text, which is, what ChatGPT gives you, to generative UI.
Okay.
And Tambo is essentially the infrastructure that lets a large language model, an LLM, control and render a React application in real time.
So before we get too deep into the weeds, I want to set the scene. When we say generative UI, I feel like people imagine an AI just, hallucinating a website from scratch.
Yeah, drawing the pixels.
I guess drawing the buttons and the layout pixel by pixel. Is that what Tambo's doing? Because that sounds like a recipe for a broken, ugly mess.
No, and that's a really important distinction to make. If the AI were trying to write raw HTML and CSS on the fly, it would look terrible, and it would probably break immediately.
For sure.
Tambo takes a compositional approach. Think of it like a professional kitchen. The AI isn't growing the vegetables. It's the chef selecting from high-quality, pre-prepped ingredients to plate a dish.
Ah, okay. So the developer still builds the pieces.
Exactly. The developer builds the Lego bricks,
Mm-hmm.
the charts, the task lists, the forms using standard React code. Tambo is just the engine that lets the AI decide which bricks to use and, how to snap them together based on what you ask for.
Okay, that makes sense. But how does the AI know how to use a Lego brick? I mean, an LLM is just a text predictor.
Right.
It predicts the next word. How does it know that my specific sales chart component needs an x-axis and a y-axis?
This is where we get into the secret sauce of Tambo.
Yeah.
It's all about something called Zod schemas.
Zod. It always sounds like a villain from a Superman movie.
It does, doesn't it? But in the TypeScript world, Zod is a hero. It's a library for schema validation. Basically, it's a way of creating a strict contract.
Like a blueprint.
Precisely. You tell the system, this sales chart component must have a title, which is a string. It must have data, which is an array of numbers.
Got it.
So when you initialize Tambo, you register your components along with these Zod schemas. The LLM treats these schemas as tools.
Okay.
So when you ask, show me sales for Q3, the AI looks at its tool belt, sees the sales chart schema, and says, aha, I can use this tool. I just need to fill in the blanks according to the rules.
So that solves the hallucination problem then. The AI can't just invent a property that doesn't exist.
No, exactly.
Because the Zod schema would just reject it.
It would. It forces the probabilistic nature of the AI, where it's guessing into the deterministic nature of code, where things have to be exact. It bridges that gap.
But I have to ask about speed. We've all used chatbots where you ask a question and then you sit there staring at a blinking cursor for 10 seconds while it thinks. If my entire user interface is waiting on that, that's going to feel sluggish.
That is the single biggest hurdle for generative UI, and the documentation highlights this as Tambo's main technical achievement. They call it prop streaming.
Prop streaming. Okay, break that down for me.
So typically, if an AI is generating a complex JSON object, which is just the data format to describe the chart, you have to wait for the entire object to be finished before you can read it.
Right, because a missing closing bracket kills the whole thing. It's a syntax error.
Exactly. Tambo handles the partial parsing. It allows the React component to start receiving the data while the AI is still generating it.
Oh, I see. So if I ask for a list of 10 tasks, the first task pops up on my screen, then the second, then the third. I'm not waiting for the whole list to finish generating.
Correct. It feels like the interface is being typed out or built in real time. It handles the buffering, the error recovery, even cancellation. If you realize halfway through you asked the wrong question and hit stop, the UI handles that gracefully.
That's huge for the feel of the app. It stops being a request-response cycle and starts feeling like a stream of thought.
It makes the interface feel alive.
Mm-hmm.
And that liveliness is crucial because Tambo distinguishes between two very different types of components. The source material breaks them down into generative and interactable.
I saw that in the outline, generative versus interactable. What's the difference?
Generative components are essentially read-only visualizations.
Yep.
They are a one-way street. You ask a question, the AI generates a view.
Okay, like show me the weather. Boom. Here's a weather card. I look at it. I'm done.
Exactly. That's useful, but it's kind of the level one of this tech. Where Tambo gets really interesting and where the agent terminology comes in is with interactable components.
Great.
These are components that persist and hold state.
The example in the docs was a note or a task board.
Yes.
Yeah.
So imagine you say, create a note for my grocery list and make it yellow. The AI uses the schema to render a note component. It sets the title, adds the items, and sets the background color prop to yellow.
Okay, so now I have a yellow sticky note on my screen.
But here's the kicker.
Mm-hmm.
It's a real React component.
Hmm.
You can click into that note and type add milk. You can drag it around. You are interacting with it directly.
So you're not asking the AI to please add milk to the list. You just do it.
You just do it. And this is the interactable part. The state is shared.
Ah.
So if you modify the note and then follow up with actually make that note blue, the AI can update the properties of that existing component without wiping out the milk you just typed.
Whoa, okay. That is a fundamental shift. Usually with ChatGPT, if I want to change a chart, I have to ask it to regenerate the whole chart.
Whole thing, yeah.
And if I tweak the data manually, the AI wouldn't know. You're saying Tambo keeps them in sync.
It creates a collaborative workspace.
Yeah.
You and the AI are manipulating the same object. It moves us from chatting with a bot to co-working with an agent.
That sounds incredibly powerful. But it brings up the question of isolation. Is this agent stuck in a bubble? If I build a nice task board in Tambo, is it just a toy in my browser, or can it talk to my real tools?
That's a valid concern. A pretty UI that connects to nothing is just a prototype. Tambo solves this by leaning heavily into a standard called MCP, the Model Context Protocol.
MCP. We're seeing that acronym pop up everywhere lately.
It's becoming the industry standard. Think of MCP as a kind of universal USB port for AI models. Instead of building a custom integration for Google Drive and another for Slack and another for Linear, you just build to the MCP standard.
And Tambo supports this.
It has built-in support. So if you connect Tambo to your Linear account, which a lot of dev teams use for issue tracking,
Right.
you can say, show me all the high-priority bugs assigned to me. The AI uses the MCP tool to fetch that real data from Linear's database. Then, instead of dumping a text list, it feeds that data into your fancy interactable ticket board component.
And because it's interactable, if I drag a ticket to done,
Theoretically, if the tool is set up for two-way sync, it updates Linear. You are building a custom interface for your tools on the fly.
that is wild. It's like a command center that reconfigures itself. But what about stuff that isn't in the cloud? What if I need the AI to do something on my actual computer or specifically in my browser?
They call those local tools. This is for client-side execution. The classic example is get weather using the browser's geolocation, or maybe something like copy to clipboard.
How does that work technically? The AI is running in the cloud, isn't it? How does it touch my browser?
The developer defines a function in the front-end code, say, a JavaScript function. They give that function a schema. If the AI decides it needs that info, it sends a specific tool call signal.
Okay.
The Tambo client intercepts that signal, runs the JavaScript right there on your device, and sends the result back to the AI.
So the AI is basically puppeteering the browser. Hey, run this function for me.
In a controlled way, yes. It allows for things like DOM manipulation or accessing React state directly.
Now, you said controlled way. That triggers my security alarm. If the AI can run code on my browser and it knows my data, how do we stop it from doing something stupid or malicious?
Security is paramount. You don't want the AI showing your admin dashboard to a random user. Tambo handles this via the Tambo provider. When you wrap your app in this provider, you pass it authentication details.
Is that just an API key?
It depends. On the server side, you use a user key.
Yeah.
But on the client side, where the user is interacting, you pass a user token, essentially an OAuth access token.
So the AI inherits my identity.
Exactly. When the AI tries to fetch data or execute a tool, it does it as you. If you don't have permission to see financial reports, the AI won't be able to fetch them either.
That's reassuring. It's not a super user bypass. It's just acting on my behalf.
Right. And speaking of acting on your behalf, there's one more feature in the docs called additional context that I think is really cool. It's about grounding the AI in what you're looking at.
Give me an example.
Okay, imagine you have a list of 20 files on the screen. You select 3 of them. In a normal chatbot, if you type delete these, the bot has no idea what these refers to.
Right, you have to say delete file A, B, and C. It's tedious.
With Tambo, the developer can pass the IDs of the selected items as context to the AI. So you say these, the AI sees the context selected items, ID 1, ID 2, ID 3, and it knows. It executes the command correctly.
That connects the chat to the mouse. It bridges the 2 modes of interaction.
It creates a shared reality. The agent sees what you see.
Okay, so we've got the mechanic Zod, streaming. We've got connectivity MCP, local tools. But let's play devil's advocate. Tambo isn't the only player here. We've got the Vercel AI SDK. We've got Copilot Kit. The space is getting crowded.
For sure.
If I'm a developer listening to this, why do I choose Tambo?
The source material provides a comparison table that's actually quite illuminating. It really comes down to philosophy. Vercel's AI SDK is fantastic. It's the 800-pound gorilla. But it's very broad. In Vercel, mapping a specific tool to a specific UI component often requires a fair bit of manual wiring. You're writing the glue code.
So Tambo is more opinionated.
Yes. Tambo's stance is that the AI should decide the component. You register the schema, and the system handles the selection logic autonomously. But the biggest differentiator is that focus on persistent stateful components we talked about.
The interactable stuff.
Right. A lot of other tools focus on ephemeral UI widgets that appear in the chat and then scroll away. Tambo is designed to help you build the main interface of your app-persistent dashboards, shopping carts, that kind of thing.
Okay, I see.
It's closer to Copilot Kit in that sense. But Tambo's approach to client-side tool execution is described as more declarative and automatic.
It sounds like they're trying to lower the barrier to entry, like, here's a box with everything you need.
Batteries included. That's the vibe. They provide the back-end orchestration, so you don't have to build a server just to manage the conversation state.
Speaking of servers deployment, is this a SaaS play? Do I have to pay them monthly to use their cloud?
You have the option. There is a Tambo Cloud backend, which is free to start. It's an easy button. But, and this is big for the open source community, you can self-host it.
So I can run it on my own metal.
Yes. They provide the backend as a Docker container. The SDK and the backend are MIT licensed. That's a very permissive license. It means you aren't locked into their ecosystem.
Right.
If you're a bank or a healthcare company and you can't send data to a third-party cloud, you can spin up Tambo inside your own firewall.
That is a critical feature for enterprise adoption.
And what about the brains? Which LLM are we using?
It's model agnostic, mostly. The docs list support for OpenAI, Anthropic, Gemini, Mistral, Cerebras. Basically, any provider that is OpenAI compatible, you bring your own API key.
So if a new, smarter model comes out next week, I can just swap it in?
Theoretically, yes. As
All right.
long as the model is smart enough to handle those Zod schemas reliably. And that is the catching. You need a model with good reasoning capabilities. If you use a tiny dumb model, it might try to shove a string of text into a number field and break your chart. Right, the chef needs to know how to read the recipe.
Exactly.
So zooming out a bit, we started this conversation complaining about static software, the one-size-fits-all problem. It feels like Tambo is a toolkit to solve that. But as a developer, this feels like a lot of work. I have to build the components, write the schemas, set up the provider. Is it worth it?
I think you have to look at the trajectory of user expectations. People are getting used to natural language. They expect to be able to just ask for what they want. The old way navigating 5 layers of menus is starting to feel like friction. High friction.
It feels like work.
Exactly. Tambo allows you to build low-friction interfaces. Yes, you still have to build the components. You need those high-quality ingredients. But you stop trying to predict every single combination. You stop designing every single flow.
We leave the combination logic to the AI.
You do.
So I build the Lego bricks, but I stop writing the instruction manuals. I let the user and the AI write the manual on the fly.
That's the shift. You are designing capabilities, not pages. You ask yourself, what should my user be able to do, rather than what screen should they see next?
That's a profound shift for product managers, too. You're managing a capability set, not a sitemap.
And judging by the activity on their GitHub, developers are hungry for this. They know the current way of hard coding every interaction doesn't scale to this new AI era.
Well, This has been a fascinating look under the hood. We've gone from Zod schemas to prop streaming to the death of the sitemap. It's clear that Tambo isn't just a library, it's a proposal for how software should be built in 2026.
It's a glimpse of the near future.
If you want to dive into the code yourself, and I really recommend checking out their task board example to see that state management in action, we've got the links in the show notes.
Definitely worth a look.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave us with a thought that came up while you were talking about designing capabilities. We've spent the last 20 years obsessing over UX design, where the button goes, what color it is, the visual hierarchy.
The pixel-perfect mock-ups.
Right. If tools like Tambo succeed and the interface generates itself based on context, what happens to the designer?
That is the provocative question. In a generative UI world, the role of the designer might shift from being an architect who draws the rigid blueprints to being a gardener.
A gardener.
You nurture the system, you define the constraints, you pick the plants, the components, you set the vibe in the design system tokens. But you don't control exactly how the plant grows. You don't control the final layout of the screen for every single user.
That's beautiful, but also kind of terrifying for control freaks like me.
It requires giving up control.
Yeah.
But maybe by giving up that control, we get a product that actually fits the user better than anything we could have designed by hand.
A gardener, not an architect. I'm going to be thinking about that one. Thanks for listening to this deep dive into Tambo. We'll catch you on the next one.